So very warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, our program bringing you all the latest news and events happening inside the Black Continent. My name is Angie Meher and I'll be joining you for today's episode. Of course, today we have a lot of news and we start straight away with some of the news making the headlines. US President Donald Trump on Monday gave strong backing to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi as they met on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. President el-Sisi said his meetings with Trump reflect the significant understanding between the two countries, adding that this was his second meeting with the American president in the last 2 months. Here's the story. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for the technical difficulties, and we'll be bringing you these reports shortly. But first, we're delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest for this afternoon, His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for joining us. Now, on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, President el-Sisi met with his American counterpart Donald Trump, who voiced strong backing for the country. They spoke about the relations between Cairo and Washington. How did you see the meeting between President el-Sisi and President Trump, especially that this is the second time he meets with the American president in the last 2 months?
I am happy with those meetings, of course. It is very important because what you call the presidential diplomacy is very important. You can solve a lot of problems. You can attract more partners for Egypt, whether in trade, investment, and to tackle international crime. As you rightly said, our president has seen the American president in this very complicated time of our life twice now. And I was happy with the conference between the two presidents, where it's quite obvious that the positive elements of our relations, Egypt's relation with the United States, is much more than any negative impact we are thinking to talk about. As of Africa, this time our president is not going as Egypt's president only. He is the chairman of the African Union, and our president was successfully presenting the problems in Africa, whether to the G7 or the G20 or to the TICAD in Tokyo. That was a successful approach, where he presented the case of Africa as a continent which is not well treated in the international economic relations or trade relations. The flow of money from Africa to the first world, to the developed countries, is much more than the money coming inside Africa, because Africa is paying its debts, it's paying its imports invoice, more than Africa is gaining from investment coming to Africa or the invoice of its exports.
Yes.
And the solution the president was trying to market is we need to invest in Africa with the Egyptian experience, which is well accepted and very properly in the term of cost, and with the finance of the United States, with the finance of China, which came with a positive reaction, with Japan, when we discussed it with the TICAD, even with the Arab money, which is seeking good investment in Africa. And this also would lead to our efforts in order to enlarge the limited free trade area of the COMESA to have a bigger Africa free trade area, which will take all the 51 countries within 1,200 million inhabitants. This is a huge market,
yes,
which can attract foreign direct investment if we succeed market for it. Add to this that Egypt is a member of the Arab Free Trade Area and to the association agreement with Europe. So we have markets of more than 2 billion inhabitants, where if you invest and produce in Egypt, you can export all your production to this huge market without any custom duties or any trade or custom barriers.
Yes.
That was most of the files the president was carrying with him.
Indeed. Mr. Ambassador, President Sisi also attended a dinner banquet hosted by the Business Council for International Understanding, which is a US-based organization that works to expand international trade. Could you elaborate a bit more on Egyptian-US trade relations, especially how they have developed over the last few years?
We are enjoying huge support from the American, United States of America to the Egyptian economy.
Yes.
Since Gamal Abdel Nasser, of course, and his special relations with President Eisenhower. And it continued up till now. And but on the side of trade, we are not that satisfied. We import from United States much more than we export.
Yes.
And we have to do two things: to convince and to market for our commodities. Also, on our side, we have to produce much more commodities suitable to the American market and do our best to market for it in order to make the trade balance a little bit balanced in our favor.
Yes. Mr. Ambassador, also the President has offered lots of promising investment opportunities for American companies to come and invest in Egypt. How much do they invest now, and how have the changes and the reforms in whether investment laws or economic policies in Egypt encouraged more investors to come and invest in the country?
We are doing our best in order to make the laws and regulations are according to the international system.
Yes.
And this is very good. Still, we have to do our homework concerning many things. Our banking system is very slow and lazy.
Yes.
It's still complicated. We have to improve our banking system. We have to improve the labor in our country by training, by education. The good thing that we made a good effort in two sectors, which is one of them, the electricity and the energy. We make huge improvement in energy, so an investor can come and can find source of energy easily. The second thing we succeeded on, it was to provide more and more land in order for new factories and new projects, in order to find the suitable land for investors. And we have to ameliorate, of course, our bureaucracy, because bureaucracy is the most important obstacle against any investment wherever you are going to invest.
Yes. Mr. Ambassador, also on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly on Monday, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi delivered a speech before a high-level meeting on the comprehensive healthcare system, and he spoke about the country's efforts in reforming the health system in Egypt. He also spoke about Egypt's 100 Million Healthy Lives initiative. and that over 60 million people were screened for the virus C disease. How do you see Egypt's experience in this field, the success with the 100 Million Healthy Lives initiative, and how do you think this could be copied in other developing countries, especially in the African continent?
We are doing our best to give our experience to Africa. And we had before the Egyptian Fund for Economic Cooperation in Africa.
Yes.
Now we have an agency for development and partnership with Africa, but we need finance. The capital of our agency is good, but not good enough to cover the whole continent. That's why our president and our diplomacy is trying to market for a new diplomacy where we invest in Africa with Egyptian experience and finance coming from the States or Europe, China or Japan, and so on. And the Egyptian experience is very well accepted and very well known in Africa. Africa really is supporting Egypt, supporting the Palestinian cause, although Palestine is not an African country. And really we enjoy very good relations with Africa nowadays.
Indeed. Mr. Ambassador, tell me a bit more about some of the challenges that could face African countries in improving, whether it's their health system or their infrastructure or their economic development, industrialization, etc. What challenges face the African continent, especially that it is, as you said, a very rich continent, even though it's still developing?
Yes, Africa, like the developing world, is suffering from bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a big obstacle there. And when I say also it's suffering from corruption, I don't mean that corruption, it means bad experience with money or something like that. Corruption, it means delay of how do you use the money you are getting as finance and investment in a very quick way. Also, Africa is suffering from bad experiences with the transport. We are suffering from road transport. We don't have enough roads, and that's why we are proposing the Autostrade from West Alexandria till Johannesburg. We need also to ameliorate the situation in Africa ports in order to adopt big vessels or establish at least good lines with smaller vessels in order to enter the African ports. Airway traffic is not covering all the continent, and we are encouraging Egypt Air to open more and more lines in order to cover the African continent. I was once ambassador in Africa, and in order to go to the place, I have to spend 3 days taking one line to another to the south and so on. This should be vanished, and good contact and good transport is also a way to attract more and more investment and trade.
Absolutely. Mr. Ambassador, the United Nations General Assembly this time round is being held under the theme of galvanizing multilateral efforts for poverty eradication, quality education, climate action and inclusion. In your opinion, Mr. Ambassador, how far has the UN come and been able to deliver on these goals, in your opinion?
As of the environment, really we are not satisfied, because the most developed countries are those who are practicing industrial practices against the environment. I'm talking especially about United States and China. And that's why United States is not abiding to the international treaty for environment. And we have to find ways in order to convince and push the United States and China to change their industrial processes. It costs money, of course, but it is after all the health of the whole world. And it's not easy task, and this is the role of Egypt as a very active developing country, as a very active chairmanship of the African Union.
Absolutely. Your Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former assistant to the Foreign Minister, I'd like to thank you very much, sir, for joining us this afternoon and for all your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we now bring you the report about President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's meeting with his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump. Stay tuned.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met on Monday with his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump on the sidelines of the 74th session of the UN General Assembly, UNGA 47, being held in New York. In a statement, presidential spokesman Bassem Radi said that Trump's administration seeks to boost cooperation, coordination and strategic consultation with Cairo in the coming period in the light of Egypt's pivotal role in the Middle East. President el-Sisi asserted that Egypt is keen to promote and cement the partnership relations with Washington, pointing out to the importance of this partnership in boosting peace and stability in the region. He added that Egypt looks forward for more coordination and consultation with the U.S. in all regional issues. Trump hailed Egypt's successful counter-terror efforts, asserting that Egypt is a key partner in the fight against terrorism, said the presidential spokesman. El-Sisi, for his part, underlined the importance of continuing cooperation between Cairo and Washington to combat terrorist organizations. The meeting between President el-Sisi and Trump tackled also economic cooperation. U.S. President Donald Trump told the reporters that it is an honor to be with my friend, the President of Egypt, as he started the meeting with Egyptian President el-Sisi. While addressing reporters covering the meeting, Trump described President el-Sisi as a real leader who had done some things that were absolutely amazing in a short period of time when he took over not so long ago. President el-Sisi expressed his gratitude to his American counterpart and addressed the fact that they are having their second meeting in 2 months, which reflects the great relations between Egypt and the U.S. El-Sisi was keen to praise Trump's wisdom in dealing with regional challenges using the military options. Trump said that Egypt is a special place with its largest population in the Arab world. President el-Sisi said that the political Islamic groups will always hinder the existence of stability in the region. He asserted that the public audience in Egypt will never accept to be ruled by political Islamic groups, adding that the fact was clearly demonstrated in 2013.
And for more news, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi also discussed the Egyptian-Belgian relations with the Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly on Monday. We have more details in this report.
Counter-terrorism, combating illegal migration and regional issues were discussed during President el-Sisi and Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel on the sidelines of the healthcare session of the United Nations General Assembly on Monday. Presidential spokesman Bassem Radi said in a statement that President el-Sisi congratulated Michel on being elected as the President of the European Council in July 2019, praising the bilateral relations. The President affirmed that Egypt is further development in various fields bilaterally or through consultation regarding the regional issues and topics of mutual concern. President el-Sisi expressed Egypt's keenness to develop all bilateral cooperative mechanisms with Belgium and all economic, commercial, investing, touristic and cultural fields. The Belgian Prime Minister praised Egypt's role in bringing stability and safety to the region, voicing his country's willingness to increase the bilateral relation with Egypt. Both leaders described the international efforts of counter-terrorism as President el-Sisi highlighted the necessity to curb any financial or political support to terrorist groups. El-Sisi also shed light on Egypt's role in curbing the illegal migration, as his country completely prevented illegal migration attempts since September 2016, besides hosting millions of refugees and migrants from neighboring Arab and African countries. Other regional issues of Palestinian-Israel conflict, Syrian crisis, and Libyan turmoil were tackled by the two leaders. The president affirmed that the commitment to the two-state solution, the Arab Peace Initiative, and the international legitimacy resolutions as a basis for settling the conflict between the Palestinian and Israeli sides.
And for our final report for today's edition of Africa Today, of course, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that Egypt seeks to widen the country's 100 million Health Life initiative to spread to other African countries. We have more details in this story.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that Cairo seeks to widen the country's 100 million health initiative to other African countries. The president made the comments in a speech on Monday during the UN high-level meeting on universal health coverage on the sidelines of the 74th UN General Assembly meetings in New York. The 100 Million Health Initiative, launched in October 2018 under the auspices of President Sisi and lasted until April 2019, aimed to screen more than 52 million citizens for hepatitis C. The Health Ministry has vowed to completely eliminate the disease from Egypt by 2022. In his speech, President Sisi said that Egypt had succeeded in examining more than 60 million citizens under the umbrella of the Health Initiative. The President added that healthcare is a top priority for the country and that Egypt has started implementing a new comprehensive health insurance system. The President urged the development partners to work on finding solutions for a better life for all citizens. President Sisi arrived in New York on Saturday morning to participate in the 74th session of the UN General Assembly, which is set to kick off on Tuesday. The President took part in a closed-door meeting for the heads of governments climate on Monday.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up today's edition of Africa Today. We do hope you have enjoyed it. You were in the company of myself, Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.